There's a handbag in the tree.
Oh God.
Oh, there's loads of medication.
Oh yeah, don't touch it then.
Oh mate, I cannot believe what we have just found. This is terrible. This is creepy. Welcome back to the Carl and Alex channel, home to all things wonderful and weird. This video is about a day when I found something really strange down by the canal. There is also a bunch of other exciting things coming in this video. For example, why this giant fish tank behind me is empty at the moment. I'll explain all later in this video. But first, down to the canal. We had had enormous amounts of rain, more than I've ever experienced in my whole life, and the canal's water level had actually risen much higher than normal. The water was at the same height as that bench, flowing through into this bit. Whilst this flooding was happening, some of the fish that live in the canal had escaped through the water and down into the field next to it. So what myself, Owen and Rory, two guys who live in the nearby town, decided to do was try and catch those fish out of the puddles and put them back into the canal before those puddles dried up and the fish died. Oh, this is going to be so hard to find a carp in here, honestly. I waded around in the water for quite a while trying to find this fish, eventually spotted quite a big one, swiped at it with the net, but I didn't manage to get it. I wasn't quick enough and it escaped. I walked back down to try and find some more fish, and whilst I was at the end of this sort of puddle area, I looked up into the tree and that was when I saw it. Well, I looked at it and I thought, what are the chances there's still a purse with loads of money in it? Do you reckon you can get up there? I'm scared.
I'm not scared.
Oh, I'm scared.
The reveal.
I don't want to know. I don't really know if I want to know. If there's an animal, like a cat.
That'd be sick.
There's lots of medicine. Lipstick. Stones.
It's definitely been made into a nest.
Oh my god, you're right.
Oh, it's a little bowl.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, off it go. Oh, but have I just destroyed its home?
There's another one there.
No, there's not. The thing is, a poor animal is going to be high on tramadol, anodine. What we have just found, this is terrible. This is creepy. Whoa! I don't know why. I just screamed like a girl for a little mouse.
That's so cool though that they live in a handbag in the tree.
Are there
Designer mouse. There's probably only two.
Oh, mate, that's so weird. Why did someone lob their bag in a tree? It's really heavy. It feels like there's something else.
I reckon there's something else in there. Mummy's gonna jump out on it. There's definitely no squirrels in there. Oh, yeah, look, heroin.
Glasses? What? The woman wore glasses. I feel kind of bad now for the squirrel. I mean the mouse. Yeah. Squirrel. All right, well that's that mystery solved, I think. It's just litter. Well, that was a strange old find. Lipstick, pills, and 2 mice. So after disposing of the bag and its contents, we went about trying to catch those fish and get them back into the canal. And after ages and ages of wading around in the water, chasing after them, we spotted one and got it cornered. Oh, there is a carp. There is a carp. Yes! You did it! You did it! You got one! I thought he was long gone. I was certainly really glad that at least we managed to rescue one of the fish and get them back into the canal. Over the coming weeks, the water level kept dropping in that ditch, and before it dried out, the guys managed to rescue a few more and get them back into their home. Just before we left to go home that day, I spotted a shopping trolley in the canal, so thought I ought to try and get in and fish it out. I was waiting for it to be much deeper. I mean, who on their day off goes and lobs one of them in the canal? No. That said, who on their day off goes and pulls fish out of a ditch? Well, that was embarrassing. Right, peace then. See you guys soon. In the early spring, before the whole coronavirus thing kicked off in the UK, Omi and I had a really nice short holiday up in Wales. We're on the road and we will be for the next 4.5 or 5 hours. It's rather a long drive. We're actually heading up to What's it? Say it again.
Prettier.
What she said. Alex is going to be looking after my fish whilst we're gone, so that's good. I trust him,
Yeah.
sort of. Little update, we've been on the road for 3.5 hours or so. It's now dark and we've stopped for some dinner. Wales is a long way away. Up here. We arrived at our accommodation quite late, but we're up early the next morning. Well, good morning. We've just woken up to this beautiful view. I'd imagine it would be somewhat more expansive if there wasn't so much cloud in the sky blocking all the hills and mountains, but quite a cool place we're at here. I'm going to give you a little tour of what's going on and where we are, and then we're going to go exploring. We had come to Wales as it was Omi's mum's birthday and she had invited her friends to stay in the big house. Luckily for me, it overlooked some lakes. What's the priority and the first most important thing to do in the morning?
We
We?
get up. Wake up.
Oh, what I meant was go and find the nearby lake that we could go fishing at. The fishery at the bottom of the hill was called Eisteddfa and we decided to give it a go. Net. Annette is my favourite fishing partner.
Who's Annette?
We would start on the well-stocked pond and do some float fishing.
But which knot is it? A loop knot.
Yeah, that's right. Using the float is certainly quite a good way to hone your fishing skills, and Omi got definitely a lot better at the casting and also timing of the strike.
This is roach number 2.
Yep.
Hello, mate. Learning.
Yes. And then swing up and into hand. Nearly. Fish successfully unhooked by yourself. Pretty decent. Roach.
Back to your homely day.
Om's been fishing for a little bit. What have you caught?
Big roach.
Okay. Medium, small to medium roach. Maybe we should call it.
Big to me.
Okay, yeah. And not to be greedy or anything, but yeah, I want to have a little go. I'm going to give it a try. Maybe put a worm on, try and catch something a little bit bigger. And then, after that, we're going to go over, whoa, there somewhere. Because over there is a trout lake, which apparently has got a good stock of rainbows, I think. And you can take them as well, so we might be able to bring a couple back and cook them up for lunch. Oh, there we go.
Yay.
This one is a rudd rather than a roach. You can tell that.
It's upward mouth.
Yeah, the mouth is sort of pointing upwards to feed near the surface, and the bottom lip is longer than the top lip. Easy difference between roach and rudd. Worm is definitely a more selective bait than maggot. Maggot will get anything. Worm will normally get slightly larger fish. You just might not get quite so many bites.
A moorhen?
Oh.
Or a coot? No, moorhen. Coot.
Moorhen.
Moorhen.
Coot. Badger.
Hello, ducky.
Oh,
Yes?
yeah, come over.
Wow, what's going to come out? What have you got?
I don't think you've seen one of these before, actually.
Is it a crease?
No, it's a roach bream hybrid.
Roach bream.
What these do sometimes is they make you think you've got a massive roach, and they get you really excited,
Wow.
but then they're not.
I like them.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Maybe you wouldn't like them so much if you touched them, they're quite slimy.
Hello.
Not as
they're
slimy
quite-
as a bream.
Right. You won't get me touching a bream.
How'd you get on finding the ducks?
They won't run away from me.
Swam away from you. We didn't just fish whilst we were in Wales, we also enjoyed some nice walks with Omi's family friends and also explored a copper mine too. I don't know what we're doing here and I don't know why I've got that on my head, but we're going underground apparently.
Yeah, wave.
Well, this is rather nice. I'm kind of hoping that we find some fish though. Back on the trout lake, we had sort of two approaches to use on that lake. The fishery allowed the use of bait, so you could use worms, and what we did was rig a worm up on a drop shot rig, just meaning we could suspend the worm like a foot or so off the bottom and give it little twitches every now and then to try and attract the fish to bite. This can be a very effective way to catch trout from places like this. And although most places often ban it and you can only fly fish, when you can, it can be a really good way to introduce beginners into the sport and get them catching fish quickly.
Oh,
he's not bad.
good.
We had loads of bites fishing with the worm, and although a lot of the time we missed the bites and didn't quite connect with them, eventually we did hook up into a few fish. That's the third one. You got that instantly. We've got ourselves some dinner. I also wanted to try some fly fishing, and I will honestly say I'm no expert with it. I really don't know what I'm doing when it comes to fly choices and stuff like that. I kind of got the hang of the casting. That wasn't too much of a problem. Finding a fly that the fish wanted to eat, yeah, that took a little bit longer. Once I had settled on a fly pattern that worked and the fish were interested in, I found quite short, sharp, relatively fast retrieves worked quite well. That like grabbed the fish's attention and they just shot out of nowhere and would grab it. Catching them on the fly was certainly a lot of fun. Omi had a few, I had a few, and we basically ended up with a decent bag of fish ready to bring back to the house and cook up. There we have it. Now, I'm no expert when it comes to trout. I'm not a trout fisherman. I don't do fly fishing very much at all. If someone can tell me in the comments below what that fish is, I would love to know, because the other ones are definitely rainbows, and I don't know whether that's a rainbow which has forgotten to be a rainbow colour, or if it's something called a blue trout maybe. I'm not really sure, but someone in the comments will enlighten me, I'm sure. Help us out. A proud fisherwoman with her catch. Why are we not doing fish fingers?
Because it's more effort.
And fish don't actually have fingers, so...
Fish don't have fingers.
Massage the
Massage trout. I have 20 minutes.
Do you know if there's many bones?
I think I took the most out. If they're... No.
You caught that fish. Well, actually no, I might have had that one.
You might have had that.
You can't really tell what colour it was though.
This was my bit.
I had the blue one, the blue fish. So it's nice to actually make the most of what we caught and eat it up. So good morning of fishing and a good afternoon of cracking on with a little bit of work and tucking into the tasty fish that we caught. Whilst I was in Wales, I took the opportunity to hop in the car and drive to, I think it's called Holyhead, where there's a port. There I could take a ferry over to Ireland so that I could go and visit my good friend Wes. And today I'm going to be visiting Wesley, who was a friend who we made whilst we were in Japan. He's got a koi dealership where he sells koi carp to many of his fish keeping customers. So we're going to go over, visit him and check out his store. And I wanted to go and visit him because I needed to do some filming for the video which you may have already seen, the koi documentary that was on our channel a little while ago. Whilst I was with him, we actually, well, he showed me his shop and I got to do the filming that I needed to do in there, but we also visited one of his customers' ponds where his customer actually had a couple of fish that weren't like too well, they were a bit ill. And yeah, he got the fish out of the pond, put them in a bucket, put them to sleep with some medication, which was mad. I didn't realise you could do that. Got them laying there on a mat, like an unhooking mat, just laid them down and gave one of them some injections I don't actually know what the injections were, but the fish was relatively ill, and apparently that was going to solve the illness that it had and keep it alive, because these fish can be really valuable, and people obviously don't want their pets to die. And then the other one had some kind of bacterial infection, and he cleaned that up and put some medication on that one too. Is that potassium?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I'd ever really witnessed fish surgery before until that day, but it's the first for everything, I suppose. On the topic of pet fish, ponds, tanks, aquariums, that sort of thing, I was actually having a few problems back home with my tropical planted tank. My tank started off very simple. I added a few more plants to it, improved the lighting and cleaned it out and made it look a little bit better. I introduced some golden barbs, which are a really active, nice fish to have in an aquarium. I really like them. I had, I think, 5 of them, but they weren't the one for a delicately planted tank like mine. Every morning I'd wake up and they would have just ripped all the plants to pieces, and as you can see, my tank looked like an absolute mess. I decided that I probably shouldn't have golden barbs in this tank. My algae eaters, the fishnet flying fox, those are cool. Those don't do any damage at all. They don't rip up the plants, they just eat the algae. They're chilled, they're great, they just look after themselves. But the golden barbs, they weren't the one, so I decided to switch them out of that tank into another one, and I also gave the tank a real good clean up and replanted all the plants that have been ripped up. But there's an update to my planted tank. We'll show you over the next few months how it progresses and how the plants continue to grow and fill out the soil. With my tropical planted tank all sorted out, I now needed to turn my attentions to this giant tank that we've got here. So the fish that we've kept in our indoor fish tank, the one which you've probably seen in the background of our tutorial videos, those fish have got a little bit big now. They've outgrown their tank over the winter, and it's time to release them into their big new home, the pond in our garden. Oh, you little! He's too quick. Always a bit bigger, that one. So right now we're going to get our fish out of the tank into a bucket, and then going to measure them just so that we've got the reference and I can remember their sort of size, so that in years to come we can look back and see how much they've grown and stuff like that. The reason we waited until spring had come to move these fish outside is because otherwise there's quite a big difference in temperature from inside to outside. I put the bucket in the water and I'm going to leave it there probably for half an hour, so the fish get used to the temperature slowly rather than giving them a real shock by switching them straight away. Chicken came up first. Oh wow, out they come. All 3 of those koi and of course the little goldfish are all doing really well in the pond now. They've been in there for a few weeks and they're settled in really nicely. However, the pond is not yet complete, because those of you who watched our koi carp documentary from earlier in the year will know that whilst I was in Japan I bought a really special fish, and quite a big one too. That fish has actually been in quarantine now for I think 8 weeks or something, and I'm finally now able to go and pick it up. So stick around on our channel because you'll be seeing that video very soon. It's very heavy. Lastly, as you can now see, the giant tank behind me is now empty and there's nothing in it. I've drained it down, cleaned it out, removed all the rocks and plants, and it's basically now a blank canvas. I haven't quite decided what we should do with it next. I don't know what fish we should put in, I don't know what plants, what sort of scape we should do. But if you've got any ideas of what we should do with this big tank, what fish we should have in it, stick a comment down below, we'll have a read, basically make up our minds, and in an upcoming video soon, we'll do it. If you want to watch another one of our videos, check out these 2 here or subscribe, and we will see you guys in our next video. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye.